Russia's war in Ukraine is hitting many industry supply chains. One feeling the squeeze is the liquor business. The global alcohol industry relies on Russia and Ukraine for about a third of its wheat and barley supply. Glass, cork, and wood for barrels have also been disrupted. And joining us right now to talk more about it is Joe Magliocco. He is the president of Michter's Distillery and its parent company, Chatham Imports. He says his grain supplier hasn't felt this kind of pressure since World War II.
Wheat?
Wheat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What did I?
I thought you said wheat. I did.
No, wheat.
Okay. Maybe they're getting into that business. We can ask Joe.
I think we have a pretty booming wheat industry here. But wheat, yes, is coming under pressure.
It may be a better business than the liquor industry.
Eventually, Joe.
Yeah.
You might be in that. Yeah.
Joe, I know the human toll is really the most important thing that's coming out of Ukraine, but obviously the world is feeling the impact from the supply chain issues. The idea that this is the biggest impact you've seen since World War II on grain, explain that.
Yeah, I mean, it really, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I've really never seen anything like this during my career. And it is, I think, the biggest impact that there's been on our industry since World War II. The conflict really has exacerbated the supply chain and the inflationary pressures in our industry. I mean, the only good news and only silver lining to all of this is just that spirit companies seem to be able to take price successfully, and the strong brands remain strong in the industry. But it is the most challenging time I've seen. The supply chain in our industry is so global nowadays. I never realized that until a few weeks ago that we had corks for an important Chatham Imports that's a parent of Michter's. One of our important products has corks from Ukraine. I never realized until a few weeks ago that Malt Europe, which supplies barley, which is critical to fermentation. Malt Europe supplies barley to the industry. It's a big supplier, and they have 2 malting plants in the Ukraine. So it's really had a big effect. When we couldn't get corks from Ukraine, we had to scramble, and we wound up getting them in Argentina.
So what kind of cost increases are we talking about? What have you seen just in your input costs over the last, let's say, 6 months? I have to really take a look at the past 6 months, but I know, for example, corn is the largest grain that we use to make bourbon. And on the Chicago Board of Trade, if you compare the price of a bushel of corn in January of 2020 to the price of a bushel of corn nowadays, it's gone up 91% since January 2020. I mean, that's the biggest grain that we use in making bourbon, so that has a big impact. I think as you just flashed up, I mean, Russia and Ukraine account for about 30% of global wheat exports. Again, this is just a tragic conflict. This is having a tremendous humanitarian toll, but that really affects our industry. And one of the big concerns for a lot of distillers right now is we're really concerned that with wheat prices shooting up, since wheat is such an important crop around the world, that farmers will replace things that we need, like barley, like rye, with wheat crops. As wheat prices are up, that may lead to further difficult shortages for the industry. It's not just the grains that you're watching. It's not just things like cork, but Chatham, your holding company, also imports a lot of wine. I think
Yes.
Pinot Grigio that they're bringing in from Italy, and that's faced some pretty big hikes in prices too. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tremendous. We import a Pinot Grigio from Italy, Santa Marina. The winery that we deal with, they said that once the conflict started, that their energy costs went up roughly 50% at the winery. And I don't doubt that from all that I've read. It used to be to bring a 40-foot container of wine from Italy to the east coast of the U.S. used to be $3,300 a container. Now, before the conflict, now it's $7,000. So that's 112% increase. I mean, it's just enormous. Again, the inflationary pressures are not just on spirits; they're on wine. They're really every industry nowadays.